Hello travelers, Boardman21 here, and today's build is an updated Werigan build. It does a little bit more damage, your pets are a little bit tougher, and with this one we're going to be taking advantage of the 40 adaptive spell damage at the top of the Druid tree for your companions. Now with the Spriggan, you're going to be in Werebear Form the whole time, which is going to allow you to be super tanky. You're going to get 50% plus damage reduction from armor. You're going to have 60% damage reduction from your threshold of endurance at 750 HP or lower. You're going to have 30% damage reduction at low life thanks to Berserker. You have 16% less damage taken from nearby mobs at all times. You have a huge block chance, almost 40% chance to block, which will be another 20 to 30% damage reduction. Whenever that happens, you'll have capped resistances. So basically, as soon as your life starts to drop and you get to that 750 HP or lower, where you're at low life, you're just not going to take any damage. You're basically almost impossible for you to get one shot. And then on top of that, you're going to have the Spriggan pet, which is going to be based around the 40 adaptive spell damage at the top of the Druid passive tree. You're going to have Entangling Roots being proc to give it more adaptive spell damage and 100% faster cast speed. And it's just going to machine gun Veil Orbs that are doing intense amounts of damage. Its single target damage is crazy. It can clear maps for you as well, even though it doesn't have a huge AoE. It'll still kill everything because it is firing so fast and killing them in 1 or 2 hits. And as you can see from the gameplay, we took bosses out in just seconds, which is a lot of fun. And because you're so tanky, it is a very high arena pusher. This thing last patch was able to push over 400 waves with endurance in the way that it's almost impossible for you to get one shot, and the fact that all you do is run around and get healed from Entangling Roots. It's going to be another very high pusher. I pushed it to just over 200 waves before I left so that I could get back to testing some other classes and get these build guides out for you guys. But alright, let's go ahead and get into the skills. Skills, I'm running Ice Thorns, Werebear Form, Swipe, Summon Spriggan, and Entangling Roots. For Ice Thorns, I have this set up for a chance for us to have it proc automatically when you get hit. We have 3 points in Dagger Thorns, 2 points in Bramble Armor, and 4 points in Spell Thorns. This makes you have a 40% chance every time that you get hit to be able to proc Ice Thorns. 1 point in Anemophily, 1 point in Thorn Shield, and 4 points in Bulb Shield means that of that 40% chance to proc it when you get hit, there's a 40% chance when it is procced to be procced a second time, and basically you get a double cast of it. And then we have 4 points in Bark Shield and 1 point in Eternal Protection. The way it works is Ice Thorns normally throws out some ice spikes that are ice thorns, if you will. And with this node, it now turns it into a shield first for 1 second before it fires out the Ice Thorns, which gives you additional armor. Now, with 80 armor in Bark Shield and 40 armor baseline, you have 120 additional flat armor for every stack of it that you have, and it lasts for 30% longer, meaning it lasts for 1.3 seconds instead of 1 second. Now you can imagine when you start taking a lot of hits, say you decide to stand in a bunch of axe throwers, you're going to get a massive amount of procs of this, and it is quite possible for your armor to skyrocket and get 60 to 65% damage reduction because you'll break the 10,000 armor barrier. But you do have to get hit a lot and you'll be taking damage as well. But basically look at this as an extra layer of defense, and the more you get hit, the more damage reduction that you'll have. For Werebear Form, we have +1 points. We have 5 points in Your Saint Heart. This gives you 250 additional flat armor along with a 25% increase, making you quite a bit more defensive. We have 1 point in Intimidating War, which applies frailty stacks on war. 2 points in Iron Hide for health granted whenever you war. 1 point in Woodland Bear for Entangling Roots to now be cast whenever you war, and this gives you a bigger mana cost on war. However, with the mana efficiency node, it doesn't add very much. In fact, you only pay 4 mana total for the entire skill. 1 point in Wild Command, so that war now taunts and frenzies your allies. What's nice about this is it does this instead of fear, but this also means that all the mobs will start chasing you, which means that as you run around in your circle or whatever, that your Spriggan will be able to kill them without taking very much damage, since you're basically protecting it. Now remember, your Spriggan does so much damage, it has a high percentage of leech, that it's very unlikely for your Spriggan to die anyways. However, this just makes sure that it's going to be you being chased, and since you don't have to stop to cast anything and can constantly keep moving, your survivability and your damage reduction is going to be better than that of the Spriggan anyways. 2 points in Rowling Cry, so that you get 200 additional armor for each nearby enemy for 4 seconds when you war. 4 points in Grizz. This is what gives you the aura that kind of looks like holy aura around your Werebear. Whenever your companion is inside of this buff, or minion is inside of this buff, it gets 32% increased attack speed, cast speed, and move speed, and some more crit chance. Then we have 2 points in Pummel, 2 points in Food for Thought, and 1 point in Your Sane Wisdom for that global mana efficiency of 300%, so that all your skills are very, very cheap. This will cancel out your health regen, which you don't have much of anyways, and you will revert to human form at 30% life. Now remember, at 30% life, several things happen. One, at that point, you're going to already be below your endurance threshold, so you'll be taking 60% less damage from all sources. You'll then proc at 35%, you proc the Berserker buff that you have in the passive tree, which is another 30% damage reduction. And so between those two things, even if you convert to human form, it's still very, very unlikely for you to die, so you don't have to be too worried or start running from mobs. You're going to be pretty safe. Then you'll heal yourself up with roots, and you'll go back into Werebear form when it's off cooldown. For swipe, I have 8 points in Way of the Hunt for all of that leech, 4 points in Wegarian Reach, 1 point in Claws of the Bear, 1 point in Lupine Attunement, 3 points in Aspect of the Panther, and 3 points in Wild Calling. Now, you're almost never going to actually be using this. However, if you do find yourself with mobs around you and for some reason you can't move, or you think that you're going to take a lot of damage, you can just give a swipe, and that one hit that you do a swipe, which won't do a whole lot of damage, will summon wolves to give you secondary hits, and you're going to leech a huge amount of the damage. For summon Spriggan, we have 8 points in Floral Ascendance, 5 points in Vile Orb, 5 points in Festering Orb, 2 points in Veilbeard, and 1 point in Veil Assault. Now what this is going to do is your Spriggan is going to get 200% more hit damage against bleeding enemies, which you'll have minion bleed chance on chest and helm. You get 200% more hit damage against poisoned enemies. You'll have some poison chance on Idol Sphere minion. 2 points in Veil Barrage, which gives you extra AL projectiles, and 1 point in Veil Assault puts them all in a line, which is going to make it basically just machine gun orbs, especially when you get the 100% cast speed increase from Entangling Roots and the Frenzy, and 30% increased attack speed or cast speed through War and Werebear, which is just going to make it absolutely crazy. And then for Entangling Roots, we have 4 points in Nourish for some healing, 1 point in Roots of Lap for more patches. This gives you more healing if you're standing in multiple patches, along with more mana back per second. 1 point in Bountiful Harvest to cast Healing Nova, 1 point in Mana Bloom, so that you gain 1 mana back per second per patch that you are standing in. 1 point in Lasting Briar for some duration, 1 point in Reclamation, 1 point in Grove Master, 2 points in Imbued Sap for 60% increased ally damage. This affects you and Spriggan. 4 points in Spriggans of the Grove for 100% increased cast speed, which is just ridiculous. 4 points in Warden of Farward, so that your Spriggan now has 20 additional spell physical damage, along with the 40 adaptive spell damage at the top of the Druid tree. Is just a huge amount of damage boost. And then for passives, I have 25 points in the Primalist base class, with 1 point in Gift of the Wilderness, 8 points in Natural Attunement, 6 points in Wisdom of the Wild, 5 points in Hunter's Restoration, and 5 points in Berserker. Now what's nice about Berserker is you do have that 30% less damage taken from both dots and hits whenever you're at 35% or lower health, which is considered low life. At the same time, your endurance threshold is about 750 HP, which is about just over 35% of your life, or right in that ballpark, which means when you hit 35% life, you have 2 different reductions that kick in. You have a 60% one and a 30% one, which puts you at a total of about 72% damage reduction when they multiplicatively work together, which is a huge amount of damage reduction just for getting to that low life point. And it's not so low life that you can't take a one hit. Having 700 HP is what some builds have for maximum HP, so it's really not that bad. And we have 25 points in the Beastmaster. It's actually more than 25. It caps down at 25 because that's all it goes to on the line. We have 8 points in Ursane Strength, 1 point in Feline Bond, 5 points in Boarheart, 1 point in Arter's Loyalty, 2 points in Porcine Constitution, and 8 points in the Chase for 32% more minion cast speed and move speed. Now Boarheart is another thing. I don't count it as damage reduction because you won't have 100% uptime of it. However, when you do take a melee attack, so you get hit by something very close to you and not a ranged attack, you'll have aspect of the boar proc, which right here, the way we have it set up, will give you another additional 21% damage reduction against all incoming damage once it's active. 0 points in the Shaman and 61 points in the Druid Mastered class. We have 7 points in Barkskin for that endurance and flat armor, 8 points in Woodlore for the vitality and poison resist, 8 points in Spirit Claws, 10 points in Blossoming Vines, 10 points in Hideskin, 6 points in Oaken Form, 1 point in Woodland Bond, 1 point in Natural Duality, and then the big one, 10 points in Eternal Nature. This is where your companion gets that 40 adaptive spell damage to really make the damage of the Spriggan, the Veil Orbs, hit really, really hard. For items and idols, there's a few different types of idols that you can wear. We have some 1x3s that give your minion a chance to poison on hit, which is the most important. You can also get spell damage increase for your minions, and then you have room for a 1x4 or a bunch of 1x1s or 1x2s that fill up the 1x4. Here we have increased minion critical strike chance along with a chance to summon Thorn Totem on hit. Now, of course, we're not really doing any hits, if ever, so we're not going to be proccing the Thorn Totems, but the minion critical strike chance is always nice to see that extra damage. Now, we are wearing 2 uniques. We have Reach of the Grave, which should be a very, very high common drop for people, so you should probably have one of these. This will make our minions' spells and bow attacks deal 114% increased damage, and our companion will leech 10% of damage dealt by their spells as health. Minion also gets some cast speed. Now your Spriggan is going to be hitting against mobs anywhere from 5 to 20,000 damage, and then it's going to be leeching 10% of that, and that's just the leech from this one thing. You also have some leech inside of your passives that's going to increase that, but at 10% of a 5,000 damage hit, that's 500 health, and up to 20,000 damage hit is 2,000 health for a single hit. You have to remember that the orbs that you're casting here are hitting like 50 times a second, which means it's almost impossible with the amount of life that your Spriggan's getting back, that as long as it's attacking something and doing damage, it's not going to die. We also have the death rattle so that the critical strikes by your Spriggan will hit really, really hard. Now this one isn't really necessary if you want to do a crafted item as well, because your Spriggan has such low chance. There's really no reason for this because you're only critting about 1 in 15 shots, which is, you know, about 2 or 3 times a second because of how many orbs are actually being cast. However, you could do other things with this if you're struggling to get your capped resistances or you want more endurance. You know, you can definitely craft a item and put that on as well. And then for our craft items, for our chest, we have wild armor for increased move speed. We have minion chance to bleed, hybrid armor, increased armor, and elemental resistance. For the helm, we have +1 to Werebear, +1 to Spriggan. These are just tier 1s. That's all you need, 1 tier of each. So steal those off of another item that you have, and then throw them on whatever helmet it is that you want to craft. And then we have physical resistance and endurance threshold. For the shield, we are wearing a shield, and for this shield we have block chance, block effectiveness, and endurance. Because of the endurance that you have passively, 20%, and then the endurance that we get through implicits on gear and through the endurance that we get inside of the passive tree, we actually didn't have to do a single suffix of percentage endurance, which allowed us to get some more flat endurance instead, so that was really nice. We are wearing gold rings instead of silver rings because, one, we're not too worried about our move speed, but we did want to make sure we had capped resistances. So if you do craft an amulet and you put elemental resist on it, your elemental resist capped without needing to wear gold rings, you could wear silver rings instead and get the movement speed. Here we have increased minion damage, attunement, endurance threshold, and physical resistance. For the belt, we have a bronze belt with minion damage, dodge rating on potion use, endurance threshold, and hybrid health. The other ring has minion damage, minion dodge, necrotic resistance, and endurance threshold. For the gloves, the gloves come with void resist, that's why we're wearing the Crusader ones. It saved us a whole suffix. Then we have increased minion damage, attunement, endurance threshold, and added flat armor. For the boots, we have the Storm Greaves, which come with fire resistance, which you don't really need because elemental resistance kind of covers all of them, but it came with a decent amount of armor. And then we have vitality, movement speed, poison resist, and necrotic resistance. And then we have the Ultra Antler, which comes with attunement, minion damage, endurance threshold, and void resistance. And this is another one of those plus endurance ones that's going to help you reach that 60% cap without having to put any as a suffix on your gear. For the character sheet, we have capped resistances, as you can see. Just standing here, we have 49% damage reduction due to armor. We have our capped endurance of 60%, and then endurance threshold 747 HP. So whenever you get below that, the 60% damage reduction kicks in. For damage stats, obviously we don't have very much for our minion stats. We don't have any minion health regen. We didn't get any minion health. Our critical strike multiplier for a Spriggan is almost 400%. It gets the 40% power since we're a level 100 character. And then for its damages, you can see it has 350% spell damage and 200% physical damage. And then for the way this build works is I'm going to just put War on autocast. That's it. Now remember, as soon as I do this, you'll notice we get all of our patches and I get all of my mana back. You will never run out of mana with this. The only way you're going to run out of mana is if you cast it and then get out of it, and you keep staying out of it so that you're not actually getting your mana back. Of course, you get more mana back than the cost, so if you do leave for a while and then come back, and if you're in multiple patches, you can fill it back up. You can actually gain mana, not just replace what you lost, but actually gain. Now, for seeing the Spriggan damage, all you do is cast this. Your Spriggan's going to do whatever. You're going to be dodging attacks, running around. This is probably the most laziest build you'll ever play. You literally just run around and autocast War. That's it. And then your Spriggan, of course, is going to just be doing absolute. Look how many orbs that it's firing. It's just crazy the amount of orbs that it's firing. It's got to be anywhere from 10 to 20 orbs per second. I'm not going to slow it down and count them, but it's just crazy the amount. You can see you're getting a couple of crits every second, and that's just at a 5% crit chance. While there is some increase, it might be about 10% total chance, but it's just ridiculous the amount of damage that you can get out of the Spriggan, and I'm really surprised that they're still allowing it this patch. I thought for sure that they were going to reduce that amount of adaptive spell damage that companions can have at the top of the Druid tree. However, that's it. Let's go ahead and get into the gameplay.